No power could hope to stand in front of Rome at its peak. Any nation or country that dared to incur their wrath would either become a province or would be wiped from the face of the planet. Well, something quite similar happened to Dacia. Hello everyone and welcome to our channel. Today, we will tell you about Trajan's Dacian War, so prepare to witness 15 minutes of pure Roman glory. Let's begin. The future king of Dacia, DECEBALUS, who reigned from 87 to 106 AD, attacked the Roman province of Moesia in 85 AD. With LEGIO V of Macedonia, the provincial governor Appius Sabinus encountered the Dacian force, but the governor was among the severe casualties, causing the legion to escape. The fourth FLAVIA FELIX arrived too late from Dalmatia to assist. DECEBALUS and his army had already returned to Dacia, sacking towns and capturing tens of thousands of people. In response to the setback, Domitian, who reigned from 81 to 96 AD, the Roman Emperor, gathered his forces and went on the offensive in 86 AD. Cornelius FUSCUS, the prefect of the Praetorian Guard, crossed the Danube into Dacia with the help of 5 legions, but was soon assaulted by DECEBALUS. The prefect was killed in the attack, and his besieged units escaped across the river into Moesia. Although accounts differ, LEGIO V Aleude is said to have been wiped out, and its banner was taken during the attack. TETTIUS Julianus, the Roman commander, led his legions, the 7 Claudia, 1st Italica, and 4th Flavia Felix, and the 2nd Adiutrix into central Dacia in 88 AD. Some claim that the 1st Adiutrix and the 13th Gemina also fought in Dacia in addition to these legions. Julianus routed the Dacians at Tepe swiftly, but Vicinas, the Dacian commander and high priest, fled. The Romans camped outside the Dacian capital of Sarmizegetusa Regia for the winter after the war. While Rome was engaged in the Saturninus revolt in Germany, the 7th Claudia, having been recalled, the Sarmatiani Azages and Quadi took advantage of the frozen river and marched into Moesia, plundering cities. DECEBALUS, meantime, gathered his army to defend the capital against the Romans. Julianus returned to Moesia after escaping the Sarmatians and fearing he could be stuck. Domitian led his own army on the march, expecting to fight the Sarmatians at first, but as they withdrew over the Danube, he joined forces with Julianus in Moesia. Domitian marched his army towards Pannonia in retaliation for DECEBALUS' refusal of a peace proposal, but was immediately forced back by the Marcomanni. When Domitian received the second peace offer, he thought it was in his best interest to accept the Dacian offer. An ill-considered contract was signed, which included an annual gold payment to the Dacians. The Dacians agreed to leave Moesia and hand up their captives of battle. The pact was unpopular with both the Roman Senate and soldiers. It was viewed as a show of weakness by them. Moesia was split into 2 provinces after the treaty: Upper or Superior Moesia and Lower or Inferior Moesia. Moesia was allotted 4 legions, while Pannonia was assigned 4 more. The emperor had a different perspective on his interaction with the Dacians. Domitian hosted a Roman triumph following the 3-day Roman secular games to commemorate his defeat of the Chatti and Julianus' victory in Dacia. DECEBALUS became a client of Rome after the peace of 89 AD with the admission of DECEBALUS as King Rex Amicus. He was given a large amount of money, yearly financial stipends, artisans in both peace and war trades, and military engines to protect the empire's boundaries. The Dacians utilized the craftsmen to improve their own defenses. According to some historians, this was an unpleasant peace, which may have contributed to Domitian's murder in September of 96. Decebalus continued to oppose Rome despite limited diplomatic cooperation with Domitian. At the time, Rome was experiencing economic troubles as a result of military incursions across Europe, as well as a low gold content in Roman currency, as instructed by Emperor Nero. The war was exacerbated by confirmed tales of Dacian gold and other lucrative trade resources, as well as the Dacians' stubborn stance since they were unbowed and unbroken. A new conflict with Dacia seemed unavoidable. Trajan was resolved to succeed where Domitian had failed in defeating the Dacians. Trajan was aware of the situation, but he did not have faith in the Dacian monarch. Decebalus was a cunning warrior who specialized in ambushes and pitched battles. He was a master of time and a shrewd controller of both triumph and failure. Trajan must have understood this and decided to strike when he spotted the Dacian monarch on the march. Trajan marched out of Rome in the spring of 101 AD. In Moesia, 4 legions, the 1st Italica, 4th Flavia Felix, 5th Macedonica, and 7th Claudia, were already stationed and ready to cross the river. Additional legions were on their way by the time he left: the 1st Adiutrix, the 14th Gemina, the 15th Apollonius, the 10th Gemina, and the 2nd Adiutrix. The 13th Gemina and 1st Minervia were next to arrive. Trajan and the legions arrived in Viminacian on the Danube, accompanied by the Praetorian Guard prefect Claudius Livianus and the commander Lucius Appius Maximus, where they joined the emperor's nephew and future emperor, Hadrian, who ruled from 117 to 138 AD. Decebalus, with the help of the Sarmatian cavalry and Roman deserters, prepared to meet the Roman army across the Danube. Envoys from the Dacians arrived to discuss peace with Trajan as his troops broke into marching camps, but they were immediately rejected. Decebalus's men assaulted the Roman advance groups, whether his promise of peace was a ruse to stall Trajan. The Dacians' next target was marching camps, but his forces, like the Sarmatians, were swiftly defeated. Trajan dispatched 2 envoys, Lucius Sura and the prefect Livianus, to negotiate terms in an attempt to find a peaceful settlement, but Decebalus refused to see them. Trajan's army went over the mountains, striking Dacian castles after the peace talks were refused. Trajan even discovered the eagle seized from the rooted 5th Alude in one of the castles. Trajan finally arrived at Tepa, the site of Julianus's triumph 2 decades before. Decebalus fled after the Second Battle of Tepa, which resulted in a high number of deaths on both sides. Trajan moved his troops southward to the Danube as winter approached, crossing the river at the Iron Gate. Decebalus took advantage of Trajan's withdrawal and launched an attack against Roman auxiliary forts, while the Sarmatian cavalry advanced into Moesia. Trajan led his men over the river right away. Trajan cut off the Dacian baggage trains and executed those who accompanied them in what became known as the Battle of the Carts. Meanwhile, in Moesia, the Roman legions repelled the Sarmatians and destroyed the Sarmatian cavalry at the Battle of Adamclisi, despite their own terrible losses. The Dacians and Sarmatians retreated, preparing for the next day. Trajan and his army crossed the Danube in 102 AD, separated into 2 columns, and marched towards the Dacian city, prepared for a siege. The Romans assaulted Dacian castles along the way. The Dacians tried, but failed to halt the Romans, even capturing Decebalus' sister. The emperor reunited with Lucius Maximus in the capital. The Dacian ruler dispatched envoys to Trajan, who in turn dispatched Sura and Livianus to negotiate peace terms with the envoys. DECEBALUS promptly agreed to the terms of the settlement. The Dacian monarch agreed to relinquish territory in western Dacia, where Roman settlers would later be moved as a part of the peace pact. The prior tribute paid under the ancient Domitian contract was to stop, among other things. Trajan returned to Rome to start a series of construction projects. The Roman legions withdrew to their home bases, leaving garrisons to guard the freshly conquered region. There was tranquility for a little moment. Of course, the emperor did not trust DECEBALUS, who was gathering friends and erecting fortifications in preparation for another assault against the Romans. Trajan established 2 new legions after his return to Rome, the second Triana, which was dispatched to Syria, and the 30th Ulpia Victrix, who would later follow him on his return to Dacia. DECEBALUS learned that Trajan was strengthening his armies near the Danube in the summer of 104 CE and inquired about the emperor's plans. Instead of meeting with Trajan's legate in Dacia, Pompeius Longinus, to negotiate future peace arrangements, the king opted to imprison Longinus. DECEBALUS promised to restore the legate in compensation for the land lost in the treaty in a communication to the emperor. Longinus dispatched a courier with a letter to Trajan to convince him to comply with DECEBALUS's demands while Trajan examined the scheme. He outsmarted the king, though, and committed suicide. DECEBALUS was enraged, and Dacian warriors attacked several Roman auxiliary forts in the spring of 105 AD. Trajan and his Praetorian Guard sailed across the Adriatic to Dalmatia in retaliation. They marched from there to the Danube, which they followed all the way to Viminacium. He then proceeded to Drubeta, where he was reunited with his legions, one of which being Hadrian's legion, the First Minervia. The Roman legions, a total of 12, were now collected on both banks of the river at Trajan's Bridge, a new permanent bridge built by Syrian engineer Apollodorus on both sides of the river. Trajan led one column into Dacia, while Lucius Licinius Sura, Lucius Appius Maximus, and Lucius Quietus headed the other 3. Causteri, Bildaru, and Pietrarosi were attacked by the Romans as they began their arduous march to the city. Trajan arrived in the Dacian capital at the start of the summer. He ignored a plea for peace, stationing Roman artillery at the city walls, and prepared to assault DECEBALUS, who he desired more than the treaty. While they waited, flames broke out all across the city. The Romans arrived in the blazing city the next day to discover that the monarch had forced many of his nobles to swallow poison, but he had fled. They also heard about the king's hidden riches through surviving aristocrats. DECEBALUS had diverted a nearby river and buried his riches in silver, according to legend. When Trajan learned of this, he ordered his legions to divert the river and search for the buried treasure, which included 360,000 pounds of Roman gold and 730,000 pounds of silver. DECEBALUS remained in the mountains trying to restore his decimated army, while Trajan and his legions were searching for wealth and the Dacian ruler. He was then pursued by the Roman commander Maximus. DECEBALUS committed himself in front of Commander Maximus before he could be taken prisoner after failing to attack a Roman marching camp. His head was delivered to Rome when Maximus dismounted and decapitated the body. Trajan returned to Rome with 51,000 captives after his triumph. The celebration in Rome lasted 123 days after he was given the title of Dacius. 10,000 gladiators fought, and 10,000 animals were slain in the victory games. Dacia was now a Roman province, and the legions 13 Gemina, the 1st Italica, the 5th Macedonica, 7th Claudia, and 11th Claudia were sent to Moesia. The end of the Dacian Wars was a major victory for Rome and its forces. Trajan declared 123 days of festivities around the empire. Dacia's vast gold mines were secured, and it is believed that Dacia provided 700 million denarii per year to the Roman economy, funding future battles and contributing to the fast growth of Roman settlements throughout Europe. So that is all the time we had today, folks. Hope you enjoyed the video. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel and to hit the bell icon to remain updated about all our future videos. See you all next time.